Hey everyone, Editor Esper Quinn here. We have a really great episode with Ash Parrish as our new panelist going forward, and a puppy break in the middle. But before we get to that, Brandon has some words to share on personal loss, the election, and what we can do going forward.
I want to talk a bit about the fallout from this election. In the context of that, I'm going to tell you something about my life that I haven't really talked about, and bear with me because I do have a reason for it. To sum it up, this has been a difficult year for me. My dad started getting treatment for the cancer that he had been ignoring at the end of the year. It was localized around his head, and he got a lot of aggressive radiation and chemo to address that. All this messed with his brain, and he started to forget things, but I called him every day to try to keep him sharp, which sort of worked. He lived with my stepmother, who essentially became his caretaker. This went on for a few months, and he had improvements here and there, but he wasn't eating well, if at all. I found out over time that he went down to 119 pounds as someone who was 5'11" at full height. He just couldn't eat, and eventually he had to get a feeding tube. My stepmother didn't get any training in doing this, and he wound up throwing up a lot. During some of this, I had to go help my mother with her ankle surgery, unfortunately, also while working 10 to 12-hour days to try to finish demon school. That's still going on. Crunch is terrible. Nobody should do it, but I believe that if anyone has to, it should be the boss first, so that employees ideally don't have to, though, full disclosure, one other of us is, unfortunately. I've been doing that for about a year, maybe year and a half, to try to get demon school finished. Anyway, not 2 weeks after I returned from helping my mother with her ankle surgery, my stepmother had an aneurysm. She couldn't speak properly, she lost control of her right eye, and the whole right side of her face was paralyzed. She obviously couldn't take care of my dad, who at this point needed to be fed with a syringe or he'd die, and she hadn't fed him for several days without realizing it. So I had to go out there to help very suddenly, and it took basically all my remaining flagging energy to keep both of them alive with some help from her local friends. I coordinated my other siblings to come help, and I won't get into all the details, but basically as soon as we all left, my dad fell and broke his hip. He then had to go to an assisted living facility where he immediately started doing worse. And we also had this sort of Damocles hanging over our head, knowing that his insurance was eventually going to run out. None of my parents live near me, by the way, so this all came with days of travel. And I also took over my dad's medical calls for the last several months alongside my 10-hour workdays. Basically, no matter what I was doing, in a meeting with a publisher, outside with my dog, on the podcast, if I saw a call come from that area code, I had to take it at any hour, no matter what. That leads me to that insert credit episode in September where I had to leave in the middle of the show, which I did because the facility called me to tell me that my dad had aspirated overnight. That means he had thrown up and it had gotten into his lungs. And they told me that his brain oxygen level was very low and he was unresponsive to voice prompts or physical stimulus. So I had to make the call right there, whether to rush him to the hospital or perform invasive life-saving measures, only to have him back in the facility worse off than he started, or let him go. And the humane thing was to let him go. I got my stepmother to go over there and I spoke to him even if he couldn't hear me, but it was a difficult end cap to a very difficult 9 months. I'm mentioning this right now not for sympathy, and in fact I have a very weird relationship with sympathy and actively don't want it, especially from people that I don't know very well. So don't contact me about it, thanks. I'm mentioning it for a few other reasons though. For me, there's been a lot of despair and hopelessness wrapped up in my last year, and I really didn't feel like a person. I was essentially just a vessel for work, caretaking, and doctor and insurance calls with no possibility of a happy ending and no positive way for that to change. Despite this, I continued doing the show, in part because I knew it was important to people. I've heard from folks over the months and years how it helped them through isolation in the pandemic, isolation in their general lives, and with a general need for community. I appreciate how much it has meant to people, and I want to continue that, even in the face of a new despair that I'm sure we're all feeling right now. So the first reason I've shared all this is because I've seen a lot of people talking about how art that makes people happy or even gives them a distraction from their lives is more important now than ever. I definitely agree with that, but I also want you to know that we're all feeling this stuff too, and it can be difficult to be funny and charming during all of this. we are going to keep doing it. And again, this is not woe is us, more like, I know you all appreciate what we do, and that gives me the desire to keep doing this show in spite of everything. Second, I want all of you to know that you're not alone in hardship. I know a lot of folks are already going through hard times, and this makes it much worse. The fallout from this election is going to cause a lot of people to die, and our basic rights and the future of the planet through climate change are in serious jeopardy. This is all happening while we are trying to recover from a pandemic, and as our bodies age, and as our parents age and need assistance, as we lose our jobs, and everything else that's going on. People already had a lot of stress in their lives, and this is only adding to that. It's a really hard time for everybody, and I felt like I should let you know that I'm also feeling at least some aspect of that difficulty and just trying to be more transparent with you all. Third, it really does feel hopeless right now, even as a lot of us work hard to try to make things better for other people, whether that's through jobs in healthcare or social work or green energy, through charities we support, or through sacrifices we make in our daily lives so that the planet can live. It's extremely frustrating to watch the country vote against that, which has ramifications for the entire world, as we will now certainly miss our climate goals. One of the reasons I went into so much detail about my personal situation is that I understand what it's like to help people who either don't want or can't understand care. My stepmother actively fought against care, and I had to physically force her to go to the hospital when she couldn't move half her body. At one point, she left against medical advice with the IV in her arm. My dad couldn't remember things, and all he wanted to do was leave that facility, but there was nobody who could take care of him outside of there with how many issues he had. It's very frustrating to keep going when the people you're trying to help don't want it or can't fully understand it. But my partner told me the attitude that people at her work have. She works for a green energy company. So, for example, yes, the likelihood of big cataclysmic weather events is going to increase. But say there's a catastrophe that kills 100,000 people. We can work to try to ensure that event kills 90,000 people instead. And it's still worth doing that. Even if it's thankless and even if it's done against the beliefs of the people being helped, it's worth doing the work. If nobody does it, things only get worse faster. My stepmother, by the way, has regained the use of her right eye and can actually see normally and properly now. She doesn't remember most of that time. I also know that I have it better than a lot of people. I have the privilege that comes with my complexion and gender, and no matter how difficult this year has been, I have a partner with a good job, and 2 dogs, and a house, and while I still don't make as much as I did when I was a game journalist 10 years ago, which is really saying something, I do make enough money to be able to buy a video game without worrying about it. A lot of people have it worse than me, and as tired and exhausted and emotionally spent as I am, I believe it's my duty to help those people in whatever ways I can muster. I also want to say to my trans friends, to my Muslim friends, to my Black friends, to my Latinx friends, and to everyone with a marginalized identity, I appreciate that you're here. I want you to be here. I want you to keep going too, despite everything. I want to see your stupid posts on Blue Sky or on the forums. I want to see you out having fun in the street. I want to see you existing as a human being despite everything. I also want to see all of us help each other where we can, even if that's just offering a kind word when someone needs it. There's no question this really sucks, and the whole world is going to change for the worse forever. But we've got to keep going. I hope that you'll join me in that and in taking care of each other. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for that, Brandon. Now, in an abrupt tonal shift, I present to you Insert Credit Audio Magazine, issue 363.
What good is the church? What good is theology? What good is God? This is episode 363 of Insert Credit, where my panel of video game experts dances ever onward to the tune of a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, a freelance writer and podcaster who has been asking too many questions online about video games since, 2011.
I'm Brandon Sheffield. I started this website, Insert Credit, with Vincent Diamante in 2001, which astute mathologists will know is a long time ago. And since then, I was a magazine editor, a Game Developer magazine, a magazine that has indisputably very excellent covers, as we've discussed on this show many times,
especially early era,
without
like
besmirchment.
90s,
yes,
yeah. I'm gonna do like
Without
a
a
whole
blemish.
thing about that at some point. Continued doing insert credit, then we turned it into a podcast at some point,
2012.
and that has continued. And I've been a game developer since 2005, I guess. I was drafting alongside my game journalism work and started doing that full time in 2012. And that's what I do now, working on a game called Demon School. Maybe you've heard of it on this show about 500,000 million zillion times. And
Wishlist Demon School.
Wishlist Demon School. That's me. Oh, I collect video games. I collect records. I collect media. I love really obscure media items. You know, I had a great experience recently on Blue Sky where I asked for some sci-fi recommendations for movies and mentioned that, yes, I've seen all the normal things that you could think of. And I actually got some interesting, good things that I'd never heard of. So, you know, everybody's doing great is what I have to say about that. Okay, that's me.
Am I next, or
You're
is
next.
that-
You're next.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I'm Frank Cifaldi. I like travel and mountain and nature.
Yeah.
and I'm available now. I actually don't like any of those at all. So I'm kind of a video game preservation historian guy. I've been doing that since before insert credit. So tack on even more years to your mathologist large number. But while I was doing that, I also had a brief career in video game journalism, working actually alongside Brandon for quite a while at the web equivalent of game developer, which is now called Game Developer, and I wish it was called Game Developer when I was there, but instead it was called Gama Sutra.
Esper, censor that out. That's too vulgar for this show.
Ew. I love the story of Chris Kraft having to tell like a second grade class the name of the website.
Yeah. And me having to say it in India.
Yeah.
God.
I'm glad the 90s are over. That was a very 90s website name. Brief career in game. Well, not really that brief. Was in games journalism. Like Brandon, I left around 2012 to be a full-time game developer because I figured back then that there was just no hope in a career in game journalism.
We knew it was dead.
Yeah, we knew it was dead that long ago. So I was a game developer for a while, and then I realized there's no career there either. Sorry, Brandon.
No, I know.
Podcasting is safe.
I know it.
Podcast. But I currently run a nonprofit called the Video Game History Foundation. It's kind of been a lifelong dream, in a sense, to make what I do my job. And I do that at I have a salary. It took about 5 years to get there, and hopefully there's a future there, but we'll see. And gamehistory.org, where you find me.
Yeah, check out the Video Game History Foundation.
And I'm Ash Parrish. I am, unlike these other people on the podcast, I am actually still a video game journalist who works previously at Kotaku and now at The Verge. I freelanced for about 4 years. I got started back in 2016, and I got my first full-time job at Kotaku in 2020. Fun fact about me, I left a job at the headquarters of the people who make the Purell hand sanitizer. They are based in Akron, Ohio. They are called Gojo. The people who make Purell, I was working for them right as the pandemic started. And I decided in May of 2020 that I would leave what was possibly the most secure job in the entire world to be a video game journalist. And here I have remained full-time for the last 4 years. I guess it's important for me to say that I am a Black woman. Sometimes you can't get that in my voice. You don't know that. It's important for me to declare that because it will give a lot of perspective to the things that I have said and will say, being a member of this podcast. So, I love video games. I love writing. I'm a big fan fiction person. That is how I got started. Back in about 2016, when all of this was starting yet again, I decided if I was going to die, which now it seems like, then it seemed like, oh, it's much more possible sooner rather than later with everything that's happening, that I would do it doing things that I loved doing. And I completely reordered my life, got a new job, got a new husband, all of that stuff. And that's what I've been doing right now. I love Mass Effect games, BioWare, anybody I can romance. I'm a monster fucker. So that's me in a nutshell. Sorry, that got really awkward.
No, it's good.
Oh, no, I love it. It's fresh and it's new and exciting. I'm into it.
Insert credits, first monster fucker.
First, really?
Really?
No.
Well, full-time anyway.
Yeah, our first full-time monster fucker.
Ash, I think I figured out, let me know if I did figure it out. I think I figured out how to, or what it means to have a crush on a fictional character.
You figured it out.
At age, however old I am, 43.
Brandon, I don't empathize with video game characters. Sheffield with the breakthrough over here.
So let me know if this is what makes sense, because I always thought it was like people being like, this character should be real so I could date them, and that may be an aspect of it.
It is, but go on.
What I came to is I wouldn't want to be in this world. I wouldn't want to date this person in real life. However, were I a fictional character in this world, I would like to hang out with this person. Is that right?
That's where it starts. And from there, it gets worse.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm sure as we progress through this particular episode of the podcast, what I am talking about or what I'm alluding to will come up in full and I'll explain it. Okay. But yeah, that's where it starts. So you're on the right track. We'll make...
I don't need to progress from there.
Don't worry. Over the next year or so, we're going to thoroughly investigate monster fucking. We'll get there. This is an unfolding storyline.
We're going to work on you, Brandon.
This is a weekly segment of Brandon continuing to understand this.
Yeah.
Like, we'll check in with Brandon.
I'm always trying to understand what the humans are into.
The most important part is you didn't say who it was.
Oh, yeah. Well, Don Moma Ayase.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is definitely like, obviously I don't want to date a high schooler.
No, but in the context of the story, I think you have to put yourself into that.
If I were a
position.
superpowered high school student, this is the kind of person that I would like to hang out with.
Naturally.
What is it about her that made you have that feeling?
It's interesting because she's such a normal character in many ways, but it's just like the right slice of that. It makes sense to me that I could be like, oh, this is a kind of character that I could have an affinity for or something like that.
Let's explore more of that in a little bit. I don't want to unfold the whole saga on this first episode. We have a lot to go through. Brandon, you won last week's episode. What do you want to do with your credit?
Yeah, so I will have had a whole spiel that I will speak. We're going to put it somewhere in this episode about things, how things are going on. But something that I feel like would make me feel better about continuing to work and do this show would be if we made a frequent donation to a charity. And I am going to figure out where that money comes from. And I think that some of it will, at first it'll just be from me. But I would like it to be where we incentivize listeners to donate more so that we can go toward X charity this month. And I feel like the patrons could vote on which charity that is. And this is kind of my idea for something that I think would be fun to do and make us feel nice about working in this space and trying to do something fun and silly, but also letting other people feel like they're making a little impact, let us make a little impact, and just, what do you think?
I think we have a very supportive community. They helped us a lot a couple years ago with the Ukraine bundle that we helped put together. over the Insert Credit forums. I think this is the first I'm hearing about it, but I think it's a great idea. It's a way to get
springing it on everybody
more involved in an interactive component of this podcast, which I think we're all trying to make more of a feature of the show.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good time for people to get more involved.
I realize it's also a little rude to spring it on people like who's going to be like, nah, we're not going to give any money to charity.
Well, let me be the voice of dissent here. I think charities are a scam.
Yeah. We'll do vetting. We'll vet.
Yeah.
I have the only real charity.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, what if we put the Video Game History Foundation as one of the options every single month?
No.
Yeah, that would be very
Give it some time at least. Not right now. Yeah.
You gotta ease into that.
So that's my idea. It's something that I would love to hear feedback on. You can do that on the forums or on the Patreon.
Nominate your favorite charities on the Patreon or in the forums.
We can start now.
Here's my first question this week. Have video games completely realized the concept of importing your data from one game to the next? Is there anything more we can do with that?
Well, blockchain, baby.
Yeah, I was going to say, the thing that you can do with that is now you can own a digital token of your character that you can take to every game.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Because that's how that works.
Yeah, it just like you open Assassin's Creed and you import your shield from, I don't know, some
Zelda.
Roblox thing, some Zelda shield. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that they could do is when a Yakuza Like a Dragon game is looking to see if I have prior saves, they could just dump it all in one thing because I play too many of those. And so it's like, oh, we found data from the Yakuza 0. Oh, we found data from Yakuza 1 Kiwami. Oh, we found, I know. It's all there.
Do you get anything from that? Does the game give you anything?
All kinds of little items and whatnot.
Mostly cosmetics.
Yeah. Well, no, you get your stamina X's. You get
you get
weapons that you never use. You get a bunch of money. Yeah, things to sell at the pawn shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's handy. It is sometimes funny though when you get those things too early in the game, and it's like, oh man, I'm really hurting for cash right now. Like there's a narrative plot point.
Yeah.
That like Kiryu doesn't have any money, and meanwhile I have like $1 million because I got all this stuff.
There's a whole plot in Yakuza 0 about the fact that someone stole $10 million from the Yakuza.
Meanwhile,
you have $3 million.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I have like $50 million on hand because I ran my cabaret club.
Yeah. I can think of the most annoying implementation of data transfer, and that was when I got the second Golden Sun game. There's an easy way to transfer your data if you have 2 Game Boy Advances and a link cable. I obviously didn't, so I had to kind of sit there putting in like hundreds of characters long password of just like lowercase and uppercase letters and symbols. I was just kind of sitting there for an hour. It's like, oh, you got one wrong. Which one did I get wrong? And that was the moment I realized I don't want to be a programmer.
Well, but if you're a programmer and you do something wrong, usually there's something that tells you where the wrong thing is.
Sometimes.
So it's a little different.
Oh no, my life.
Was the question, have we like reached the pinnacle, basically?
Yeah, have we reached the pinnacle of data transfer?
So my perspective on this is that like the version Brandon described is just like, yeah, okay, that's just like a pat on the head acknowledgement that you have played something. Mm-hmm. For something like Mass Effect, I think it was cool that it, mainly was about choices that you made within the narrative to continue that story. I think that's cool. But and I think that's when it's the most effective, is when what's being carried over is something you might have an emotional attachment to, like Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon that you raised and named and stuff like that and never want to get rid of. I think that actually is maybe the pinnacle of what I would expect from a system like this, without getting into weird, like maybe games are episodic forever kind of thing.
Frank, is this where you admit that you're a member of the Pokemon National Dex movement?
I'm slightly embarrassed that I've never really played a Pokemon. Like I've played a Pokemon for work reasons for like 4 hours. I did like a preview of one. I was assigned like do a preview as someone who's never played one of these. My preview was, this is a little messed up, you guys.
Yeah.
I think this is slavery, everyone, at Nintendo Official Magazine UK. But No, unfortunately, I'm not a member of that particular society.
I would have assumed you would have played all those weird knockoff bootleg Pokemon that are sold in like other countries for just game preservation
I poked
reasons.
at them. But
I was assuming that this was about like people were complaining that you couldn't bring any Dragon Age stuff over, right? Like
that's a little bit a sideways influence, yes.
So I feel like we haven't reached the pinnacle because there hasn't been enough weird stuff that I personally know about.
Yeah,
there could be stuff that I don't know about, but I would love it if you did X, Y, or Z in the past game.
Yeah.
In this game, you start in a different space or something extra weird. I mean, these are all like infinite money ideas,
right?
But I would love something like that where it takes some value from what you previously did, and then it starts you like in a totally different area than other people, and things get extra weird, and that's what I would like to see, please.
That gives me a yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
Okay. I think, talking about BioWare and Mass Effect and Dragon Age and how they let you jump, bring your saves forward from game to game to game. I think the best way that worked within those two franchises was Mass Effect had this thing where you would generate like your shepherd, you would make him in the character creator, and it would spit out this code that you could take or give to other people if they wanted to make their shepherd look like theirs or whatever. And I think one of the funny things is that ostensibly these games have the same engine. I think it's all Frostbite, one version to the next. So you would input this code into Mass Effect 2 and it would look like one face, and then you take that same code and you put it in Mass Effect 3 and you get like a completely different face. Like, this is not the same person at all. What is this? Why does this even exist? But it was still very fun to see people, especially during like the Mass Effect 3 days, where people would share their face codes because they made their Commander Shepard look like Barack Obama or something like that. And it was actually, these faces were reproduced with a high level of fidelity. So yeah, you could tell that was actually Barack Obama. Yeah, I'm not too pressed as the Dragon Age enjoyer of the panel that you can't import, your saves or your choices don't matter that much. Like, I'm kind of over it. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, BioWare is going to tell the story that they want to tell, and I trust them to do that without my particular input. But I do like that they have a way to make some choices count that make the games feel personal, that you don't necessarily like do an import code, but at the beginning of the game, you can make choices or tell the game that these are the choices that you made in the past, and then the game will remix and spit out some things later on in the game that reference that, which I appreciated. So yeah, not the pinnacle, but doesn't need to be.
This gives me an idea for another question, but we're out of time, so maybe I'll put it on a future episode. Here's what I want to bring up next. What do people really mean when they talk about learning curves?
It's pretty, it feels like it's self-explanatory, but I'm trying to unpack why it might not be.
Right.
At the most basic level, it means the rate at which you learn things,
or pick up a game's systems and be able to explain and exploit how they work.
And you can learn them faster or slower, and there are ramps and troughs and valleys which are explained by the curve. And so a steep learning curve means there's a wall of difficulty and then it flattens out. And a lower learning curve means that it's all pretty Nintendo.
I mean, what Nintendo means as an adjective has kind of changed a lot over time.
It's changed. Yeah, there's less talking at you involved, and a little more showing you how to do it, and a little more freedom. But I think the Nintendo idea is that anyone should ultimately be able to do this, and that we as game developers should give you the tools to learn it without much difficulty. And sometimes that means talking, and sometimes that means showing. That
wasn't always Nintendo's philosophy, though. Like going back to,
I was thinking, the early games where they were hard as shit.
Going back to like the NES, the Super Nintendo, even.
Well, they were trying to lead you with game design to understand things, like the classic dumb idea of the direction Mario is facing is the direction that you should go, or when you get your Metroid Morph Ball, the way that you can leave that area is by using it. So they I feel like Nintendo did develop a lot of these ideas of showing you how a game should work. And then later they got nervous about it and were like, oh, we're just going to tell them. We're just going to tell them. But I feel like they've been swinging back a little more toward environmentally telling you how to do things.
It just seems to me that the way people use the phrase colloquially has less to do with learning new systems and more to do with, oh, this suddenly got really difficult. I can't do it anymore.
Oh yeah? That's wrong.
That was not my interpretation, because I thought we were talking about systems specifically, and that a steep learning curve implied a game that really demanded a lot of your attention and demanded that you really take a lot of time to learn it before you have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of my interpretation of when people talk about learning curve.
Not to step on anyone's usage of language, but if they are, in the middle of the game and then it gets hard and they say this game has a steep learning curve, I think that they are using that term incorrectly.
Yeah.
Because it's not about learning, it's about having a hard time implementing what you've learned at that point, which something else entirely.
Another game design challenge.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to correct here with this question. Trying to educate people on how to use words.
We're trying to teach English language.
Yeah, I know the English language has a pretty steep learning curve.
It does. It does. It's all full of nonsense. I was on the train in Japan looking at this kid looking at a English language learning book, and the stuff in there, I was like, oh man, how would I even explain it to this kid?
Yeah.
And it just certain kinds of nuance. I wish I could remember the exact thing that was there, but it was a very complicated sentence structure in which all the answers felt arbitrary, except I know them because I speak English.
Yes, English is very arbitrary.
Ash, can you think of a game that has a lot of complicated systems in it, but did a good job of leading you through it?
Oh, you said good job. Because if you had said bad job, I would have just said Crusader Kings 3.
There you
good
go.
Job?
Well, let's hear the bad job.
Crusader Kings 3, because no amount of tutorializing can get me to understand menus and sister fucking the game. Even though I tried, because I really enjoy games like Civilization and things like that, especially like the political wheelings and dealings and backstabbings that you can get up to in Crusader Kings. The sheer amount of menus and how it all works together and what you have to click through is so daunting that I just haven't been able to surmount that to get at the really fun stuff, because I see people having fun with this game all of the time and I want in on it, but that peak is too high for me to climb, so I must send you off.
Just making a note here: monster fucking good, sister fucking bad. All right, filling out the spreadsheet.
Yeah, UI UX.
Yes, does a lot.
Yeah. That's another one for me that is big. I mentioned this I think I mentioned it during the Game of the Year episode, but I was playing whatever that Warhammer game, strategy game was.
Space Marines?
And I don't remember what it was called, but I could not figure out how to attack any enemies because I don't play PC games, and the answer was you had to drag a bullet on the lower left onto an enemy. And I couldn't look up how to do it because it was so obvious to everyone that plays those kinds of games, because it was like an established way of interacting with the game that I was completely unfamiliar with. And so I couldn't look it up to figure it out. Someone on my team told me how to do it. I dropped a screenshot. I was like, how would you attack an enemy in this game? And the person who plays PC and strategy games the most, Catherine, she was like, oh, you just drag the bullet on the guy, probably.
Which makes no sense when you say it out loud. It reminds me. Okay.
All right. This is another question kind of sideways influenced by Dragon Age. Have you ever noticed how so many video games with the word dragon in the title have very little to do with dragons? What's that about?
That's okay. That is not true for Dragon Age.
Really? I played 3 of those.
So you think a game called Dragon Age, your main conceit would be fighting dragons. I get it.
Like, they're in there.
They are in there. And you know what? I'm pleased to report that you fight a fuck ton more dragons in this one than I have in the previous games. Like, it's a major damn thing. So,
but is it about dragons?
No, it's the Age of Dragons. It doesn't mean that the dragons are the focus. It's like the Bronze Age.
Correct. It's their year system.
Love in the Time of Dragons.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna title my next Dragon Age fanfiction, actually, because that's really good. That's how they name their year system. So you have the Dragon Age, you've got the Steel Age and Storm Age and all that stuff. That's what that is. So, but yeah.
I kind of feel like they do mostly have dragons in them, games with dragon in the title. I'm trying to think of one
That doesn't.
other than like a card games called like Dragon's
I mean,
Well.
Dragon Quest
Yakuza, like a dragon.
Like a Dragon.
Does the tattoo count as a real
tattoo
dragon?
counts, yeah.
I do.
It's not about it, though. I like Dragon Quest, the games are very rarely, if at all, about the dragons.
But it's about the dragon of the Dojima clan.
It just says that he's like a dragon, and he is
Yeah.
in some ways.
Okay, so I've never played a Dragon Quest.
There's dragons.
But they're incidental dragons.
So you want a game with dragon in the title that's about
If
dragons?
it's got dragon in the title, it's got to be about like Dragon Dragoon is about a dragon.
Yeah, I guess the quest isn't always about dragons in Dragon Quest.
No, it isn't. I don't think it ever really is.
But the first one was about like taking down the Dragon Lord.
The Dragon Lord, yeah, I suppose.
The rest are just sequels to that.
I guess.
Yeah.
Like not every Halo game has to have a Halo in it.
It's in the Age of
I
Dragons.
don't know, I played 11. I fought a dragon in Dragon Quest 11. I remember.
So I feel like, Jaffe, then, that you would want, in your ideal world, based on this nomenclature rules, that Monster Hunter, which should simply just be called Dragon Hunter. Because every time I see a screenshot from that game, whatever they're fighting looks like some version of a dragon.
But they're not all dragons. So Monster Hunter, in a way, is a lot more honest than these other dragon games. And I respect it for that. If it was called Dragon Hunter, I'd be taking it to task for not being just about hunting dragons.
What about dragon adjacent names? So Drakengard. Are there dragons in that? Does that count?
Drakengard, absolutely.
Drakengard is Drakengard is Dragon, which you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I was just looking around my room. I got Dragon Slayer up here, which is the Legend of Heroes series. I don't even remember if there's dragons.
I will give a pass to Panzer Dragoon.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's dragon. It's a dragon.
Yeah. There's a dragon all up in that game.
Are there panzers in it? Because
so the idea is that the dragon is a panther. So it's like you're driving the dragon like it was a tank. Is the idea?
Oh, okay, cool.
How present are dragons in Dragon's Dogma?
I don't know.
That's an excellent question. I never played it.
No one knows.
No one can. It's impossible to tell.
Yeah, that's the thing about that series is that not a single person has played it. Everybody loves it.
But everybody has played it because it's consistently at the top of Capcom's selling lists. So
It's the Spice Girls of the video game industry.
Nobody can tell you if any dragons are.
No, because we listen to Spice Girls. There will not be Spice Girl slander.
No, there's no slander. I'm not slandering. It's just that, like, I don't know anyone who owned the album, but everyone did.
Now you do, because I own both.
Nice.
My sister owned both albums. She owned all of the dolls in the Spice Girls line.
Did she have the PS1 game with the really creepy giant heads?
She did not.
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, it's a thing. And there's a secret. What is it? I think there's a secret nude scene at the end that was put. I mean, they're not like fully nude, but they're not.
No, someone lied to you. That's some Lara Croft nonsense.
No, I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna put it in the.
No, that's not real. I'm calling bull on that.
It's a one CG screen.
Wait, what's the Lara Croft nonsense? Because you absolutely fight a bunch of people in your bath towel at the end of Tomb Raider 2 or bath.
Oh no, the Lara Croft nonsense is that there's a secret nude code in the game.
Oh, okay.
So just to conclude here, Double Dragon. Are there two dragons in Double Dragon? No.
Well,
is there one dragon?
But they're
in Double Dragon.
Are they cousins or something?
It's the tattoos, right? They have tattoos, and then when they put their arms together,
I'm not giving this tattoo thing a pass.
Double Dragon is the predecessor to Yakuza.
It sure is. Yes, when they say like a dragon, what they mean is like Double Dragon.
It's like Double Dragon 2.
But just one. I get it. Speaking of tattoos, before we go to the break, I want to ask, what do you think is the most common video game character tattoo?
I think it's a dragon.
Wait, okay. When you say common video game tattoo, common as in what normal people get? Or what
not common.
Exists in actual video games.
Which video game character is tattooed on the most human bodies?
It's got to be Mario.
I doubt it.
You do?
Really?
I think it's
not Mario.
What is it? Sonic?
Pikachu.
Pika?
That's a really good guess.
Yeah, but how many dude bros are going to be getting a Pikachu? I think they're going to be getting a Mario.
How many dude bros are getting a Mario tattoo?
I think they would.
It's Mario smoking a blunt. You're missing that.
Blunt smoking Mario counts as a Mario.
It's Mario peeing on a Chevrolet logo, like Calvin.
Mario peeing on the Sega logo. Or vice versa. Sonic peeing on the Mario's hat or something.
That's a good question.
I can say that my partner just got a video game character tattoo.
Ooh.
Like last week.
Can you say?
It was the frog from Ribbit King.
Oh, that's got to be our number one then, because we have concrete evidence that one person
that
has
one person did it. Yeah, he's a cute little guy. And now he's on there. Frolf is immortalized forever.
Okay, here's what I've come up with. It's not the most video game character, but I feel like the most video game thing that people have tattooed on their bodies is either the 1-up mushroom, or the red mushroom, or the Hylian shield.
I think the Triforce.
That's what Dude Bros are getting.
Or Space
Invader.
Invader.
Or the Triforce.
The Triforce, I think, is the number one video game tattoo, period. But I want to know, if you're going to commit to putting a character on you, that's a whole different level of commitment.
I think there's probably, maybe not anymore, but it as a thing to exemplify, video game person.
Yeah.
The Space Invader used to be a thing for a long time. It's really small. It's really easy to do.
Mm.
I wonder if that could be in there because it's technically a character.
I don't think so, because I think character-based fandom beats video game play fandom.
Yeah, I think so. I think there used to be a time when that might have been.
I think in that time, that time being the 1980s, Pac-Man has got to be Space Invaders.
I think Space Invaders tattoo would be more like late 90s. Maybe early 2000s. I like video games
exactly.
kind of thing, not during the 80s. It's a retro video game.
Yeah, early 90s we're talking about.
I like Ash's two answers, honestly. I think it's Pikachu or the mushroom, actually, or the Hylian shield. I think we got the 4. I don't know of the 4 which one it would be.
I have a surprise reveal for you. I spoke to a tattoo artist about this in New York.
Oh, yeah?
I asked my friend Kat, which video game character do you tattoo on people the most? And she told me it was a Pokemon, but it's not Pikachu.
Then it's Squirtle.
It's obviously Bulbasaur.
It's not Bulbasaur.
No, it's not Bulbasaur.
Is it Squirtle, right?
It's not Squirtle.
Okay. Is it a Gen 1 Pokemon?
It is a Gen 1 Pokemon.
Is it
Charmander? Snorlax.
Snorlax is a great guess. It's not Snorlax. This is a Pokemon who has a particular energy to it that people with tattoos
Magikarp?
No, not Magikarp. But you're thinking
it's Mew.
I'm going to reveal it. Number one most popular video game character tattoo in New York City, based on the anecdotal evidence I took, Gengar. People are out there getting Gengar tattoos. He's like a mischievous little guy. He's got that Cheshire Cat smile.
I want to know what this sample size is.
This is a sample size issue.
Yeah. It should be Pikachu or one of the starters.
I'm telling you, I told some people about this and they're like, yeah, I know a bunch of people with Gengar tattoos. Insert credit listeners, write in if you or someone you know has a Gengar tattoo.
You also live in New York.
Well, listen, I called my dad, which is crazy because I haven't talked to him since I was 12, but I called him and I asked him what is the most common video game tattoo. And he actually told me it was Chronic the Blunt Hog.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I can't refute the expertise of Frank's dad. Man, is a Pokemon even a character, considering they're each species?
Yeah,
I think
they're characters.
There's a character designer involved. I think the slime from Dragon Quest counts as a character.
Mm-hmm.
But I bet there aren't that many slime tattoos, because that fandom is generally in Japan.
No, there's probably some slimes.
There's definitely slime tattoos.
There's slimes. Yeah. I also think that video game characters are like a good entry tattoo for a lot of people, and so when they're small and easy to make, like a slime, I feel like the people might, even if they're not that into it, they might just be like
that's just something you go and get done when you're drunk in Las Vegas. I can do that. And it's low lift. I'm not gonna feel bad about it or regret it later because it's so small and so nondescript. It's not super embarrassing. Like my Shanghai Dragons tattoo from the Overwatch League that no longer exists.
Look at that. That's a dragon. What did I say?
Yeah. How many dragons are in Overwatch, Ash? Answer me.
Just the one. Just the one. In Overwatch or the Overwatch League?
In Overwatch.
In Overwatch, there should be 2. There's Genji's ult and Hanzo's ult. They're both dragons. They're
both dragon. You know what? I'm eating my words here. Overwatch is a dragon game. 2 of the launch characters have dragons.
That's true.
And they're fully playable. You know what? I think Overwatch has more right to call itself a dragon game than Double Dragon, in that it has 2 dragons. All right. We'll reflect on that as we go into our quick break.
Oh, puppy cam.
Puppy cam.
Wait, where is it?
It's the thing that's moving.
Look at that.
Stop moving.
That's such a puppy.
That's a sleepy puppy.
Upside down and everything. Who decided that?
Puppy doesn't decide. Oh, yeah, what's up? Yeah, move your little paws.
Oh, stretching. Well, this is the best part of the show so far.
This better make it into the YouTube video.
Maybe we'll do a compilation after a few episodes of just like Ash's puppy cam.
Puppy's rising.
Puppy.
Giant hand.
Puppy.
Ash, what have you done? No.
No, bring the puppy back.
Puppy's gone. I'm sad.
Oh no.
Yeah, you like the little puppy cam thing it did?
Yes.
That's
Yeah. I think we're building new YouTube features for the show right now.
a puppy cam?
In real
I
time.
would absolutely 100% figure out how to put a puppy cam in here if that's what y'all wanted.
Let's do it. Welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time for us to reach a hand into the question hole. That's what I'm calling it now.
The old QH.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Everything about that is bad.
No. I'm married to it. I've done some focus testing with Frank's dad. He signed off. Subscribers to our Patreon at patreon.com/insertcredit will get the opportunity to submit their own questions into this show, get monthly bonus episodes, and other interesting features, such as the one Brandon mentioned at the top of this very episode. But this week's question comes from Esther Weinbach, who asks, what is the most important thing you've ever learned from a video game?
Oh, okay. I'm not going first.
Important thing. I feel like I've learned some things, but what were they? This is the hard question.
Water carries electricity.
Yes. Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Which game first taught you
You learned that from BioShock?
Probably I think I knew that before.
No, you knew that before.
Pretty sure I knew that one, but that probably saved at least one life.
Yeah.
What else? Well, I mean, I can just do the off the cuff, not very interesting answer, which is like patience.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that video games have taught me patience. And that I can be rewarded for patience and for perseverance, maybe, right? I think they've also, just at a base level, taught me some hand-eye coordination I might not have had otherwise, but I didn't play video games, so kind of taught me some of that. I don't know. I don't know if video games taught me how to like things that are bad, but I certainly do a lot of that with video games.
Yeah, they might have.
Find the joy in a miserable experience.
Yeah. I do have one that I guess I've mentioned here before, so I don't know how exciting this is, but I feel like I learned more about other countries being real places from video games than I did from like watching a National Geographic video or whatever, like the moment that I think of when I was playing Bravo Man on the TurboGrafx, and the city that they made looked different than a city that I could see outside my window. And then you hit this red box and it says, "Hello, I'm Japanese telephone box." And I was like, oh, this video game takes place in Japan.
In Japan?
And then I started to look at my video games in a different way, like when there's a cityscape and it has some different flavor to it. I'm like, oh, the people making this made what was around them, and what is around them is different from what is around me to some extent. It's like a very simple thing, but it actually made a lot more sense to me than like watching a movie that took place there, because a movie is like fabricated somehow to me, and a video game, while fabricated, isn't fabricated as well
because you can touch it.
So they must just be doing
stuff.
what's actually in their area. Which doesn't make a lot of sense, probably, but it made sense to me when I was...
You can't yourself jump on Japanese phone box if it's in a movie, but you can if it's in a video game.
That's right.
So, sorry, I'm going to make everybody feel bad by coming up with the actual really good, heartfelt answer to this question.
Okay.
Remember earlier in the show, I was talking about this is probably going to come up later, and I completely forgot about it, but the question made me remember. So, the thing that I learned the most, or the best thing that I learned from video games, is actually a very recent lesson, and it is how to love myself and Dragon Age is responsible for that. And that's why I'm very partial to the series. I credit it at least Dragon Age Inquisition with quite literally saving my life. But so in a very circumspect way, fan fiction is involved. Sorry. Dragon Age.
Don't apologize.
Yeah. Playing Dragon Age Inquisition, getting involved in that fandom, getting involved in making the choices that I made and the people that I decided to romance and the things that I got involved in pursuit of, participating in that fandom. So like writing fan fiction and things like that. And the kinds of things that I wrote about was in a very slow way taught me that the kinds of things that I was experiencing in my real life with my relationships with people were not things that I had to accept or settle for, that the kinds of scenarios that I imagine in my head for characters that represent me and the kinds of stories that I write, I could have that. If I could have that. It might not be 100% perfect. It might not be the fairy tale that, that I can conjure for myself and the things that I write, but I definitely don't have to accept the love or the lack of love that I am experiencing in my real life as something that is just gonna happen and I can do nothing about it. I didn't. And through Dragon Age, through this video game, through the things that I did, related to it, I was able to come to the realization that I don't have to accept these things and I can go out and get better. And then I did it. And then it ended up working out very well for me. So, that's what video games taught me.
Was that mostly through the surrounding community and fan fiction stuff, or was there something in the game itself that led you toward that conclusion? I'm just curious how it manifested.
It's a bit of both. Like, I decided that I was going to pursue this one particular romance option, and I became completely freaking obsessed with it. And
okay, which one?
Cullen, which is bad because that voice actor is bad, but neither here nor there.
Okay, a problematic fave.
Yeah, very, very problematic. But through that fandom, through all of that, I, came up or conjured this like space or place in my head that I would retreat to. And I realized slowly but surely is like, these things that I am writing for myself are the things that I want and I'm not getting, but I don't have to like accept that, Like I don't have to I don't have to accept the fact that I'm not getting these things or they have to exist only as fantasies for me. I can actually have that, and that's what I went out and got.
I'm going to one up this question because I want to make this another installment of Alex Jaffe Talks About Nier. Because that is a video game.
Cue the theme song.
Yeah. Kurt Feldman, play the original Alex Jaffe. Yeah, exactly. No, this game came out in 2010 for the Xbox 360 in America. I was at a place in my life where I grew up in a very religious community. I did not have a conversation with a non-Orthodox Jewish person until I was 18 years old. That's just how I grew up. And I grew up with a very narrow view of the world. And when it came to like sexual and gender identity, the only exposure that I had to it was as something funny or something disgusting. And you were supposed to react to it with laughter or revulsion. And if it wasn't a punchline, it was somebody who was being villainized. And Nier was the first piece of media I encountered that was like, no, trans people, they deserve dignity. They deserve respect. They have their own feelings about what they do. They're not trying to trick people. They're not there for your amusement. They're not a fetish. They're exploring their own identity and deserve to be acknowledged the way they want to be seen. And it blew open the way I think about other people in that and other aspects of the game. Which I won't get into because they're 14-year-old spoilers. But the first Nier is kind of the game that blew a big hole in my brain. And that's kind of why I keep bringing it up over 10 years later.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
See, me and Jaffe understood the assignment.
Yeah, well, you all with real solid answers.
Yeah,
embarrassing for me and Frank. Now we just got to slink away.
No, I'm not embarrassed by that at all.
No.
Like I don't know. Like I might, if I dug, I might have similar answers for not video games. I think it's just for you too.
Yeah.
It just happens to be a video game that has a really big change, and I don't think I have that.
I think media in general can be really important to getting people to get in touch with their current emotional state and potential emotional state, and it helps people understand the world better in general. So, yeah, media rules.
Media rules.
Diverse media rules.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
yes.
Here's my next topic. Can you think of a single memorable piece of video game music from the past 10 years?
Undertale.
Like, so from 2024 to 2014?
Yeah, from like 2015 to now.
Yeah, Undertale.
Undertale's 2014.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Boom.
All right. Fine.
You mean personal significance or like worldwide?
Just like a good song that people are like, yeah, that's my jam.
Last 10 years.
Because I feel like when people make like playlists of the best video game music, nothing recent is on there.
Well, okay, you know, we talk about this all the time, like not necessarily us on the show, just people in general about like, you know, video game music's not memorable anymore. It's like it had to be at the back in like the beep and boop, you know, cartridge days because we didn't have anything else. And like if you put, you know, like some Ice Cap Zone ass song in like a modern video game that has voice acting, it's just going to sound really intrusive. So, you know, I think it's just a very different world. And so, you know, when I think of modern video game songs that have impacted me, they've all been like in like retro style games. I mentioned Sonic Mania's soundtrack recently on this show. You know, like, yeah, there's several tracks in that I think are very memorable, but it's almost cheating in a way, because again, nothing is competing with it. You know, you've got like a minute and a half loop that happens several times while you're playing a really delightful stage. Whereas, like, you know, the orchestral scores of a AAA game are probably very beautiful, but I'll never know because I'm busy playing the game and listening to other sound cues.
I would say there's plenty. There's like the Yakuza karaoke songs.
Oh yeah, of course.
Bakamitai, etc. I think that the Gunsport songs are very good.
Well, okay,
but I legitimately think that, like, if it weren't by our very own Kurt Feldman, if it weren't my video game, I would still think that the Crossnick soundtrack from DVI is very good. I think there's quite a lot of good music being done in the indie space that, without just being bleeps and bloops, still manages to go for iconic type of stuff. There's also shooting games, side-scrolling shooters, vertical shooters have a long history of really extremely dynamic synthesized tracks. I'm trying to think of a recent example and failing, because the most recent thing I thought of is Border Down, which is more than 20 years ago. But there's good stuff in there. I do think there's space for putting iconic music into a video game, but like in Yakuza, the place it's really going to show up is either in like the intro or in like whenever I start up a Yakuza game, I go dun dun dun, which is the start of Yakuza 0.
Yeah, I do that too.
And then I do the little guitar. Yeah, exactly.
Like, what's great about that is that you press start on the intro the moment those 3 notes play, and that's when it goes to the menu. So that's really all you need.
Well, and also, even if you're mashing start, you hear those 3 notes.
Yeah, exactly.
Notes. You cannot escape.
It always comes through.
And what's funny is my partner. She was like, "Is that? Do they have that in every game? Because you keep making that sound." I'm like, nope.
No, just in the best game of all time.
I'm just making that sound every time.
I know that, you know, we have the whole thing like video game soundtracks were better when I was a kid, but they're still great now. Like even beyond the indie space, like whatever Shoji Meguro, who works on the Persona games, puts his hands to is automatic fire. I mean, everybody and their mom who has played Metaphor Refantazio can't stop gushing about the battle music and that Japanese monk chanting, spitting straight hot fire. I know, you know, you said Undertale kind of fell outside of the time limit, but that also, I believe, counts.
Deltarune's got some hot tracks.
Yeah.
People still go to, you know, Final Fantasy Distant Worlds concerts, and they're listening to whatever Masayoshi Soken, what he does with the Final Fantasy 14 soundtrack, which I believe happened in the last 14 years. And hell, even what he did with Final Fantasy 16. Like, no, we're still making good music.
I mean, it's not my favorite, but Nier Automata still has some incredible music in it.
Yeah.
And
Way to the World, are you serious? Come on.
Yeah.
I think the way that things are now, especially with AAA video games and stuff, is that a lot of the time the music has to take a backseat to the action is in support of a mood. But there are spaces that can be created, like with the Yakuza karaoke minigames or with a battle game theme or whatever, where you have the space to explore something that sounds more iconic and less representative of just the background. And I'm glad people are still doing it because the music rules.
All right. With that, I think it's time to go on to our lightning round.
Indestructible. It's too far in the past, but I have to mention Street Fighter 4 Indestructible.
Okay.
It's just very, very important.
It's very important to you personally. Yes,
very
I get
it. For that song to be mentioned.
People came around on it. It came out in 2014, but it took a few years until it was within that window for people to come around on it.
That's right.
So I think it counts. All right. With that, I think it's time to go on to our lightning round. I've devised a game this week that I am calling Celebrity Gamers. So here's how this goes. I am going to name 3 celebrities and 3 video games. Your job is to match each celebrity to their actual on-the-record favorite game.
Okay. And is it just 3?
I have 4 groups of 3. I'm going to name 3 celebrities. I'm going to name 3 video games. And you have to match the celebrity to their on-the-record favorite video game.
Okay.
Here we go. Your first group is Megan Fox, Ariana Grande, and Brie Larson.
The big Ariana.
Yeah. And your 3 games are The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mortal Kombat, and Sackboy: A Big Adventure.
Okay. I think my guess is Megan Fox is the oldest. Does that seem accurate?
I think that's correct.
So I'm going to go with her for Mortal Kombat because that's an old person answer.
And I think I know that Ariana Grande likes Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
And I feel like Brie Larson, no offense, Brie Larson, I feel like Brie Larson is kind of basic, and Sackboy makes sense for her.
And you're absolutely right about Megan Fox because she's in the latest Mortal Kombat. Like, she is a character, and I'm pretty sure that's right, yeah.
There we go.
Are we all on board with that?
No, I'm fine with that. I don't know about the other 2.
All right. You're correct about Megan Fox.
Nice.
Unfortunately, Ariana Grande is the Sackboy fan.
What?
And Brie Larson is the Breath of the Wild fan.
Well, look at that.
Yeah.
Colored me wrong.
It's still basic.
All right.
Yeah.
Is Sackboy basic?
IMHO.
Sackboy is a game that you play if you don't really know anything about video games and you just got a PlayStation and you're like, okay, what's good on the PlayStation? Here's a Mario-like.
Here's a Mario with a bad jump.
I don't think any discerning person gets Sackboy: A Big Adventure. Like, they would just play Mario. Okay, your next group of celebrities is Drake, Matthew Perry, and Michelle Rodriguez.
Okay.
And the games are Doom, Fallout 3, and Fortnite.
Ew. Well, Drake is Fortnite.
Yeah, Drake is Fortnite for sure.
Fallout 3 is a game for like capital M men. So I'm going to go Matthew Perry on that.
And I would agree that Michelle Rodriguez does Doom.
Yeah, Michelle Rodriguez.
She seems like the type.
Yeah, I could have gone
like
either.
Action girl type. And I think she was in Doom.
Yeah, I think she was in Doom.
Done.
You're correct on all 3 counts.
Nice.
Was she?
Matthew Perry noted that like he played Fallout 3 so much that it kind of ruined his life, which I can sympathize with. I didn't do it with that game, but I did it with a different game. He was in Fallout New Vegas because of his Fallout 3 fandom.
Oh, so he knows about the good one. Good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Drake is a big Fortnite fan because, of course, he is. He's the Fortnite of rappers. And
okay.
Yeah.
Michelle Rodriguez is not in Doom. But
she is not in Doom.
You know, it's fair enough because.
But she's spiritually in Doom.
It's impossible to know who was in that movie because it's just like you watch it and then it slides right out of your brain as soon as you finish.
All right. Your next 3 are Jack Black, Daniel Craig, and Robert Pattinson.
Okay.
And your games are Final Fantasy VII, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, these are all very basic.
This is harder because it could really go.
It could be anybody for anything.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson is like a dork, though. So he is probably like he's an esoteric dork. Like his tastes are a bit elevated. So I'm gonna go him with Final Fantasy VII.
But he is the youngest also of these people.
But he's our age, isn't he? Like late 30s? He would have grown up with Final Fantasy VII.
Well, keep in mind some of us are older than late 30s.
Yeah. He's our age, Ash.
Yeah.
I want to throw out the Jack Black with Grand Theft Auto Vice City just because of the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Just immediately where I went.
I guess by process of elimination, that would put Daniel Craig.
He has played a cowboy.
Okay.
So let's give him Red Dead Redemption, and Robert Pattinson can have Final Fantasy VII. Though
I think I would switch those.
Really?
I think I would switch those.
You think Robert
Because-
Pattinson is Red Dead? Or
Oh, but Daniel Craig is British.
Daniel Craig is British.
Who's the oldest one?
oh,
They're obsessed with cowboys because of that.
are they?
Robert Pattinson is also British.
Oh,
I think
right.
Pattinson's 7. Final Fantasy 7.
And what do you think for the other ones?
Well, I think it's Jack Black is Vice City.
Vice City.
Pattinson is 7.
And that makes Craig Red Dead Redemption?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Are we all
that's
sold
what
on
we
that?
were already saying. So
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Robert Pattinson is hilariously into Final Fantasy VII. Like, there are interviews where he's just boring his co-stars just by going off on how much he loves it.
forgot
and-
about-
100%
forgot about
scans.
that. Forgot
Yeah,
about that.
he is like a die-hard Final Fantasy VII guy. The other two are the other way around. Daniel Craig
Oh.
really liked Vice City. Jack
Oh.
Black is a big Red Dead Redemption 2 fan. He's like, why isn't this a movie? This
kinda
game
feel like-
needs to be a movie.
Those could have been whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't need to make a movie out of Red.
Yeah,
Shut up.
exactly. Well, okay.
There's a lot of stuff you don't need to make movies about.
It's true. He wants to be in every video
We
game
must
movie.
elevate this. Yeah,
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you guys about the time when I was in film school and this guy, I think he was from Tartan, Asia, one of the companies that was doing a lot of remakes of Japanese and Thai specifically films and remaking them in the U.S. And I asked this guy a question and I tried to be very diplomatic and I was like, has there ever been a movie that you saw and you were like, we don't need to remake this. This is good. This is good as it is. And he was like, no. He was really excited about it. He was like, no, they're all ripe for it. It's great.
Yeah. That's what I love about movies.
Meanwhile, he was making The Ring, which was terrible.
I love product.
Yeah. Anyway,
I love product.
yeah, he loves
Oh my God. Yeah. All right. Here is our final round. Your celebrities are Justin Bieber,
JB.
Aisha Tyler, and Elijah Wood. And your games are Animal Crossing Wild World, Halo 3, and Mario Kart Wii.
I'm going to tell you right now, Aisha Tyler is probably your like dark horse that's thrown in to like mess you up, and you're going to think it's Animal Crossing. I'm more than positive it's Halo 3.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say.
I'm good with that.
Elijah Wood. The thing is, I feel like I heard Elijah Wood talking about something. Also, I know people that have met him and heard that he was actually into video games. So I wonder if his favorite video game changes over time. But I'm going to put him in Animal Crossing Wild World and Justin Bieber in Mario Kart. Because
That's where I landed too, and I landed
I
there
agree.
with Bieber with Mario Kart. Just
Yeah.
seems like he just wants to have a
It's
good
the
time.
millennial thing to do.
Yeah.
All right. I do want to amend something. I accidentally wrote down Wild World when I meant New Horizons. So
No, it
don't
doesn't
Okay.
change
send me
my...
your letters.
Yeah,
I feel like Horizons makes more sense for this anyway.
Yeah.
New Horizons makes more sense.
All right. You're 100% correct. Aisha Tyler is a Halo girl. Elijah Wood loves dropping in on fans in Animal Crossing. And Justin Bieber just loves Mario Kart. And the Wii one was the one that was popular while he was the most popular.
Yeah.
When people were asking him what his favorite video game is. All right. You all did very well. I am going through the numbers here.
Have I ever expressed on the show that Macaulay Culkin in the Home Alone days was interviewed in a magazine that we have in our library? And I think I have, but I'm going to do it again. He's asked what his favorite video game was, and he said Splatterhouse.
Yeah.
We have to respect that.
Macaulay Culkin, go on insert credit. Oh, baby. Well, I'm tallying up the numbers, and thanks to Ash's very thoughtful answer to the most important thing you've ever learned from a video game, Ash is our winner. You get 1 credit. Here's how credits work. You can either cash them in to ask your own questions and introduce your own topics. You can use them to extend a topic beyond the buzzer. Or if you collect, I'm going to say 4 of them, you can use them to make us all play a video game.
Ooh, is this new? Or is this
This is new.
always
It's brand new.
This is
It's
new.
new.
For the
Okay.
new season of Insert Credit.
It's taken over 20 years to figure out what to do with credits, with insert credit, but we're here.
I like that one.
All right, so that's yours to keep. Make a note of it somewhere. Does anyone have anything they'd like to plug or recommend at this juncture of our video audio program?
Yes.
I got
What
nothing,
is
so
it?
you go for it.
I got him in a little listo here.
I'm sorry. You said Listo, and I just immediately went to Alarmo, and I tried to imagine like a Nintendo,
The Nintendo
like,
Listo?
notepad,
Nintendo
like
notepad.
like an electronic, like a
Oh, I would sign up for that product day one. Absolutely.
Nintendo Listo.
Yeah.
So I got a few things. One is just I wanted to share a nice thing that happened on Halloween, which was I was out. We have a thing called half price books. Half price books, similar to like Book Off in Japan, where you can buy used books and CDs and video games and VHS tapes, and a lot of my weird nonsense, my records, whatever, come from scouring these places. And when you trade stuff in, you get coupons that give you 10% off. Anyway, I was out there on Halloween. I went to a couple of them because it was the last day to use my 10% off coupons, and I had 4. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to use them all. Yes. And because they expired in October. And so I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to use all of these. I would like to give some of them away to people in the store who are buying things. But I was like, how do I identify who's worthy of my 10% off coupons? But I was looking at the records near the register, and this lady, she rolls up with a cart full of Funko Pops.
Oh, baby.
Just immediately like Sonic the Hedgehog getting
just
hit,
rushed
like
over.
all of your coupons just like like exploded out of you.
But I did actually I did give her one because I heard she was talking to the cashier, and she was like, "Is this a good one? I don't know if my kids will like it. I figure I better get them while they're on sale. Get ready for Christmas." And I was like, "Oh God, okay. She should get some money off." So I went over there, and she's like, "Oh, thanks so much. I'm a single mom. Every little bit helps. Should I give you some money for this?" And I got to be a cool guy and be like, "Oh no, please, please, that's for you." She was very happy. And then later, there was this young couple in there, and I was still, I was waiting for my next good candidate. And the guy in the couple, he was like, "Okay, so I know I've got $75 on this card. I added it up. I think the tax won't put me over, but if it does, can I take something back and put it away without it messing with your system?" I was like, "Listen, buddy, this 10% off is going to take care of your tax." And she's like, "Bro, you saved me, bro."
You did some mathology there, and it came up correct.
Yeah, it was just it was real fun to be able to be the Halloween fairy, giving 10% offs at half price books, and while looking for people who should receive a tiny little treat, they just presented themselves to me so clearly and so nicely.
Yeah. Be kind to others. Distribute your coupons.
Yeah, distribute your coupons. It was a fun time for me. I'm going to recommend a group called Monoxide Brothers. You can find them on Bandcamp. They got some interesting electronic-ish, vocal-ish music that I think has a neat vibe. They only have 2 songs right now. I just happened to hear of them from someone on the forums, and I thought it was cool, so I'm sharing that with you now. Also, Megumi Hayashibara has a book. To anyone for whom that makes sense, you're probably already trying to buy it. But she's known as the Queen of the 90s. She's an anime voice actress. She was Lena Inverse. She was Rei Ayanami. She was Ranma. She's Lady. She's still Lady Ranma. She's Lady Ranma again right now
To this day.
She was Momiji from Blue Seed. She's just been like in a lot of the things that people watched during that time. And the book it's an easy read because there's a lot you can skim. Because it's called something like The Characters Taught Me Everything, and she goes through like character by character and job by job with the work that she did that people might recognize. And the interesting part is she talks about how she came up as a young voice actress and the opportunities that she got and the things that she learned while doing it and ways that she felt while playing these characters. But then she has to take each one of them and kind of shoehorn in some sort of a life message. And and I don't know if she's necessarily equipped for it. And she winds up just being like, I believe that it's better when people communicate with each other, but it's like 4 paragraphs of that.
Yeah.
But you can get into the skimming part and you can just sail by it. It does get a little overwrought, but it's pretty fun to just read all about her life and her voice acting experience. And if you are 30 or 40 years old, she's kind of like and watch anime. She's like the
is it like
voice
for
of your
Alina,
childhood.
like Alina in versus like, don't be afraid to assert yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's and sometimes that comes with like an interesting message because it came from one of her seniors who told her how to like hold her breath or to not hold her breath or whatever kind of thing. And it's all pretty neat and cool. And she came up during the time before voice actors were singing their own songs for the series, and so she was like on the forefront of doing that, and she's sang all these iconic songs at this point. So it's a fun book. It came out just in like 2021. It's not even that old. She hadn't reprised her role as Ranma yet, but yeah, it's a fun read for me. Fun read / skim. It's 250 pages. I read half of it in like 3 hours because it's just like nothing. Yeah, there we go. That's it for me.
I'm going to recommend 2 things. One, get a puppy.
Puppies.
Can't tell you how happy I am to smell dog farts, and I mean that 100%. Like, it's a comforting feeling. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Another thing I'm going to recommend is, am I allowed to recommend other people's podcasts?
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely not.
Okay.
This is the only podcast.
You can only recommend them if they're worse than ours, though.
Yeah.
Are you down with OPP, other people's podcasts? Anyway.
This is the only video game podcast. I will say that.
It is not another video game podcast.
Okay, good. Those don't exist.
I'm glad. I don't want any competition. Go on.
My colleague at The Verge has like this general weird topic podcast called All Would You Look at the Time? I'm going to put a link in so you can put it in the show notes. And he, over the summer, he visited me in Akron, Ohio, where I live, because he was doing an episode about white French dressing. And that episode is finally out. I haven't listened to it yet, but I just saw that it came down the pipe. White French dressing is the truth. It is amazing. Apparently, it only happens like around here. So that's why.
What is it?
What's around here for those who don't know?
Akron, Ohio.
Yeah,
So,
she said that already.
I wasn't paying attention, Frank. Some of us are mentally checked out right now, okay?
Wow. So it's a podcast about this particular topic of white French dressing, which I apparently had to be like regulated by the FDA at some point.
But what is it?
Yeah, it's white. It's, French dressing, the orange French dressing. It's that, but it's white and it tastes better.
Oh.
White supremacy strikes again. So I was not serious.
I will admit I forgot that French dressing was orange, or what it even was at all.
If you know what French dressing is and then you hear white French dressing and you're like, what? That doesn't make sense. It tastes almost the same. And it's weird because you expect that taste to come in like red, this bright red color, but it doesn't. It's really, really, really good. And one of the restaurants that is by my house is like one of the pioneers of making that white French dressing, and it's really good. So I'm going to recommend that podcast, and I'm putting that link in now. Get a dog, listen to that podcast.
And try white French dressing if you are in the Akron area. As long as we're recommending podcasts, I'm going to recommend my other podcast. Listen to 52 Pickup. A show about comic books that I do with Gita Jackson. It's a really good show, even if you don't like comics. It's just a real fun time of 2 people losing their minds about a thing they're both obsessed with. Try it out. Try episode 0, and if you hate it, you never have to listen to it again. I'm also going to recommend the first 3 seasons of Slayers. Watch Slayers, Slayers Next, and Slayers Try, and stop there. You're good. You've seen enough Slayers. Leave it alone.
Just keep in mind there's some stuff that hasn't aged well in there.
Yeah. Okay. Still a good time.
That's anime.
Well, here are my other recommendations. If you enjoyed this episode of Insert Credit, or any episode, please rate and review our show wherever and however you can. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, you know the deal. You can also support us directly with your donations on patreon.com/insertcredit. If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or personal message, or submit your own horrible buzzer, you could do that by going to show@insertcredit.com. You can also join our community at forums.insertcredit.com or find us on youtube.com/insertcreditshow if you're not there already. Find Ash Parrish at The Verge, Wishlist Demon School on Steam, and go visit the Video Game History Foundation.
Not in person, though.
Yeah, not in person. Don't go there. This week's Horrible Buzzer was contributed by Hens Benz. This episode is edited by Esper Quinn with original music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
And I'm Ash Parrish.
And your game has now been saved. I'm bringing it back!
Nice.
There we go. We did an episode.
We did.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. Good job, everyone.
It's good.
Thanks, Ash.
We did it.
Yeah, that was terrific.
Yay!